Hello and welcome to the Blues Readers channel with myself, Alan, from the channel as usual. And we'll be doing a live stream playthrough of Scenario 6 of Carrier Battle Philippine Sea by Compass Games and Jon Southard, designer, which is the first day of the battle. And let's see how far we go. If you had seen my chat stream that I did a little while ago, just took you through a little bit of that. I'm trying to do something a bit more formal here. Now I've got the sort of rules sorted out in my head properly, I hope, although always possibilities for errors, of course. I'm just going to just call for some reinforcements, so I'll be back in a moment. Okay, that should do it. As usual, if you can let me know that you can hear me and see the board, that'll be great if you could let us know. This is a new thing for me in that I'm running YouTube straight off my mobile for this, rather than running it through the computer. So, but I think it looks like it's working okay. So again, let us know that you can see and hear us. Be appreciated. James, good evening, James. Thank you. Very, very good. Right. So let's crack on, shall we? While people are joining. And so what have we got here? We've got the board, as before, with the hex area around the Marianas Islands here, Saipan, Tinian, and Guam. Then we have the air mission display. So when our aircraft are in the air, they'll be in one of these displays with fuel, the fuel level that they're currently on, and will be represented on the hexagon board by one of these counters. There's an airstrike counter and intercept counter. So is it fighters or is it bombers with escorts? Really. Down here we have our 4 task groups, or 5 actually. Task group 58.1, 2, 3, and 4, with our carriers, and each column is a particular carrier. They're either full carriers or light carriers, and it's the capacity that depends on how many planes they have. And these 4 boxes denote the status of the planes that are on the carrier. We have a ready box, flight deck ready box. We have a servicing box, a hangar box, and a flight deck landing box here. So that's duplicated all the way through. And we also have task group 58.7 here, which is the bombardment group. So it's lots of battleships with supporting destroyers, cruisers there, which are also with the carriers. And everybody's all together at the moment in Task Force 58. It's represented by this counter, which starts in this hex for the scenario, 14.08. Then we have the display up here which is for the Japanese carrier forces and their representations here. And finally, we have a game turn flowchart, which is very useful for this game to follow. And I'll be trying to move the camera around to zoom in on things when I'm doing certain stuff here, but we're on zoomed out at the moment. It might get a bit joggy and stuff. I've got a couple of player aid cards over here. This is a flowchart for air raids, how they are created and how they work in the game, and then also a Japanese movement priorities chart here, which when we find there are some Japanese forces, they'll appear very quickly as unknown forces, what their movement priorities are. But I won't particularly show you these two. They're for my reference here. We have 4 player aid cards, double-sided. Card 1 front and back. Card 2 front and back. I'm not going to go exactly through what's on these. Generally, card 1 is about the air-to-air combat and searching. Card 2 is more about Japanese air attacks, anti-aircraft fire, that kind of thing. And then some raid strength and air raid generation table for the Japanese. Then 3 and 4, also here, these are much more about the intelligence levels, actually working out what Japanese are where, and also strength of known forces, and finally damage and submarine work on here, with a surface combat fire table, which we won't actually be using. That's an advanced rule we won't be using. Okay, so first thing, we'll kick off. I'll go through the mechanics as we work through it, rather than doing a kind of whole big introduction that bores everybody. Hopefully you'll pick it up quite quickly with what I'm doing, and hopefully if you spot any errors, do let me know. Not unknown to pro that. Crossing, hi. Yeah, thanks again. Yeah, sorry. I created this stream using setting for streaming software. I'm actually using my mobile, and it wouldn't allow me to change between one and the other, so I had to effectively create a new one with the same parameters, except it's a mobile based stream, and that's why that happened. Anyway, so I just want to try and let's try this zoom for starters here, and it's not working very well. Let's see if I can get across slightly and maybe zoom in. That's a bit too zoomy. No, it's not really working very well, is it? Can I zoom from there? No. Yeah, it's not very stable, this, so I'll try and keep it where we were, or find out where we were before. Let's zoom out. Sorry for making everybody a bit sick there. But yeah, that doesn't really work. So I'm going to have to sort of talk you through what's going on here. So on our game turn flowchart, we are at game turn here. Game turn, it is 05:30 on the 19th of June. And so this is the game record track, but this is within the turn, the flowchart. So at 05:30, we do what's known as the arrival phase, and this is basically the Japanese counters start turning up. So for the first 3 turns, 6 force counters will appear onto the map, and for the fourth, 2 more, to get a total of 20 possible forces. So place new Japanese forces is the first thing we do in the game turn. So we have these forces available, and they're labelled A, B, all the way down to F. They're just labels. They don't necessarily mean anything at the moment. They may not mean anything at all. The first thing we do is we place them. Now, I'm using 2d10 here. So there were 4 zones in the game for them to appear. These little white, and if you can just see it, little rising sun corners on them, these dots are appearance spots for these forces. And we rolled a little table up here to note which zone, and then within that there are 10 positions, and the second D10, which will be the green one, will be which position in the zone. So white for the zone and green for the position. So let's start with Force A, and we have zone 2 is zone 1 and position 10. So zone 1 position 10 is way over here. Okay. B, we have zone 1 position 6, which is here, quite far away at the back. We have zone 2 position 3, which is right near one of my submarines. If you probably can't see it, these 5 counters here are my American submarines, US submarines, which I can use to shadow or even attack forces if I want them to. Mike, hello. Good to see you. Good to see you. We are on Force D. Yeah, hopefully Mike can help me out with if any errors I get. We have at zone 1 again. Wow, position 9. So there's a big concentration up here, which is quite rare because only a 1 or a 2 on that D10 gets us in zone 1, but we had three there so far. So Force E. Force E is zone 2, position 9. That's still quite far up there. And finally, Force F is that's zone 3, position 7. So right. So it's all a little bit close in, and also biased to the north here. It's unusual. Nothing down here. Generally, I think these 2 zones are the most likely, but yeah, we seem to have concentrated way in the north there. So that is our new Japanese forces, and we fill our sequence cup. Now I've done this already. This is our check cup, so that includes those 6 forces plus a US move, a US sub, a Guam counter, and also 3 what's known as non-ops, because in the game, it's just off camera, let's see if I can move just to show you it. There is an action phase track here of 4 action phases in a game turn, and oops, sorry, just trying to adjust this so it doesn't. There we go. Yeah, so those 4 phases in the corner here. So we pick out a number of chits per phase. So that number of chits needs to be divisible by 4. We have, I think, 9 chits, normal chits. So we now need to add 3 no-op chits so that it makes up the 12, which is then means that we will pick out 3 chits per phase. And there's a little counter up here known as the chits per phase counter, which will vary depending on how many chits we have. Whoops, that's not working very well at all. Sorry, apologies about that. Well, that's typical. Yeah, I think I've just switched around to me as well. There we go. Sorry, there's a kind of screw holding on the onto the mount here, and it's not. It likes to undo itself. Where are we? We seem to be slightly zoomed out. Whoa, hang on, what's happened there? So I'm trying to get the zoom now. The zoom's going all over the place. It seems to be misinterpreting my... Oh, gosh, this is all over the place. Sorry. Look away and go and make a cup of tea while I sort this out. Oh, that's not bad. If we can just adjust it, maybe. We're still slightly zoomed in there, but... Oh, come on. It seems to want to immediately zoom right in if I try and do anything here. Anyway, let's continue like we are. All that important setup that I tried to do to get it exactly right. It's gone off, but anyway, there we go. Right. Okay, so we've put the chits in the cup and we've changed the chit marker, which is up there. You can't see it anymore. Now we move on to the first action phase. So these action phases are repeated 4 times. Can I zoom out? If I'll just move the camera now like this, maybe that'll... No. Sorry, I'm just trying to... Oh, really sorry about this. It won't... No, it won't come out further than that for some reason now. Anyway, let's continue. It's quite annoying. Okay, so the first thing we do is the Japanese air movement segment, which we move Japanese air raids, of which we don't have any at the moment, so we ignore that phase. Then we go to the activation segment and we roll for mission movement. So we take a dice and we roll it. Can't show it to you because of this weird zoom thing. So I'm going to roll it and then show it to you. That's a 4. So that's to cover any forces moving in this phase. That's to govern which direction they move in. You can see on the board, you can see these little Japanese carriers with a little dial of numbers around them, and that's what we refer to. Depending on which zone or which area the force is in, it will go in that direction, and it will be direction 4 for this phase. Right, moving on, we draw our sequence chits. So we pick our 3 chits for this phase, and we deal with them in order. So first is a no-op, so we can get rid of that. Nothing happens. Next is force C, and the last one will be another no-op. So only force C will be moving in this phase. So force C is way over here. Now, we count how far it is away from the task force. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 hexes away. So there is, at the moment, because it is so early in the morning, 05:30, there's 0 chance that that force, if it had carriers, would have sent planes which would appear on our radar now. So that's done because we have a max range here for an air raid generation table. So at 5:30, the max range would be 5 hexes. So if there were 5 hexes or closer, there would be a chance of them launching a raid which would appear this turn. They may have launched a raid, but we just can't see it yet. So the only thing really that happens now is that force can move using that dice roll we use. As it's an unknown force, the movement priorities for what's known as an unknown type of force, level 0, or what's called a level 1, large, medium, or small. We're a level 0. 0 means we don't know anything about the force, whether it even exists or not. So that will follow the mission movement, which is that dice roll. So C is in this zone here, and a dice roll of 4 means it moves there adjacent to my submarine. And that's actually all they do for the moment. So we've done 4C and 2 no-ops, so that's all the chits done. We then go on to US air movement segment. So if we have any airstrikes or intercept missions up, then we would move them now, and we would also adjust their fuel markers, which is this kind of bit over here. I'm really annoyed about this zoom. Let's see if I can, yeah, move it a bit this way. So yeah, those are the fuel markers there, but we haven't got anything in the air yet, so there's nothing for us to do in that air movement segment. Then we're on to a possible search segment. So one of the phases in each turn, we can do a search segment. That's just for the US, for the player. We'll choose to do it now, because usually the earlier the better. And this is about sending search planes out. So the first thing we do is we initiate air searches. So if we, so this is about sending aircraft out from the carriers along hex rows, or possibly along spines, to a pre-programmed search area. And these are this is how we're going to find the Japanese. Here is with these. So if we zoom down to say our task groups, let's see if we can do that. That's holding. Great. So if we look at each of our carriers here, we've got 2 fleet carriers here, 2 light carriers. We've got on these 2 carriers, we have these dive bombers. Let's see if we can get it. Yeah, an SB-2C. It's a Helldiver unit, which is on deck. Another one here, and also we've got 2 here as well, and then we also have 1 here. So what we want to do is we want to get these to take off, to launch at this point and start a search. So pretty much pick them up and we put them on the board, and they will initially move 2 hexes. So let's zoom out and just realign ourselves. So that's our Task Force 58 there, here. So this guy will be going down this hex spine, and it will go 10 hexes. Now we mark that, if I can find the right counter, we mark that with this counter here, known as a max radius counter, and we put it at the end of the 10 hexes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is, you can't see. Let's just move that there. You can just see it there now. Okay, a second one will move and we'll send it out this direction, 2 hexes, and its max radius search will go 10 hexes over here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Again, it's off the chart. Let me try and zoom out again. Ah, that's better. Ah, there we go. Right, and there it is. So if you put it on a hex spine rather than a hex, and I might, yeah, no, I'll keep it on hex side at the moment. If you go on a hex spine, they actually go 14. But their search pattern is very restricted. You effectively have to walk over a Japanese unit with that aircraft to have an attempt to spot. Where these hex spine ones, you have an area, depending on how far you are along the journey of the area, you can then search. So there's more zigzagging effectively, which you don't see in the game. Let's get another one up, and I think we need to send him this direction. 1, 2. And a further one going this direction. So I really want to cover that area. I haven't got anything down here as a force yet. Yeah, a narrow search, they go 14 if you go on the hex spine. That's correct, yeah. And there's nothing down here. It's all from that. I think that will probably do, so I won't actually launch this. One thing I will do is, once you launch for the turn, and this won't really be relevant, now is that you can't land and launch on a carry on the same phase. So I'm just going to put these little markers on from where I launched to know that nothing's going to land. To be honest, there's nothing in the air, so it's not a big deal, but it's just a bit of etiquette there. But of course, the other ones are free to do as they like. I just need to put the max radius counters on for those other two. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's actually where force E is. And I'll put that underneath. So that's our initiating air searches. And moving them, that we've only just created them so they don't move. Any search attempts, they will only search attempts in the little 2-hex area that they've actually created by their movement here. There's nothing there, so there's no point in doing anything. And then adjust commitment. So commitment is, that's kind of like a Japanese force size restriction. So currently their commitment is 0. When we start adding carriers in, they start appearing, or carrier forces or potential carrier forces, then that commitment number will go up. It will reach a threshold in which that will mean that there'll be less likely for further carriers to appear, and also a limit beyond that in which at that point no further carrier forces will appear. But currently we don't have to worry about that commitment limit. That's our search segment. So what I tend to do on that, this is the search segment, it's got a particular segment counter, is I tend to turn it over at the segment, which will show me that I've done my search segment for the entire game turn, so I can't do another one. So we're on to the US air operations segment. So all carriers, we can do air operations. The first air operation we do is launching. And what we want to do now is we want to actually put up some cap. What will also be very nice to do is there's a potential of some Japanese air raids coming from Guam. And if we put a fighter force above Guam, actually in that hex, it's much less likely that they'll be able to create a raid. And if they do, they'll meet those fighters immediately. So that in combination with a cap is a kind of easy intercept. So you still use the intercept counter, but it sits in one of these 4 boxes. As the task forces the task groups are all together, there's no real reason to pick any one of them. They're all good enough. The difference between a cap and an intercept is when you launch an intercept, that will have a fuel setting of 16 when it starts off, and it will count down each turn. With a cap, once it's sitting in that box, you don't use a fuel counter. It's only if the cap ever does anything, like attack incoming a Japanese air raid in its hex, or if it wants to move out of the hex with the carriers, then you actually give it a fuel marker, but you roll on the table to see how much reduced it is from the 16. The 16 is a representative of the F6F fuel setting, which you can see the 16 in the bottom right corner there. Okay, so we're going to raise a cap. We've got a lot of fighters here, we're Hellcats here, so I think we'll put up maybe a cap of 4. So we will continue to take off from here. We'll form the cap here, and I'll get an intercept marker in a second. That'll be those 4 units. We actually take them up. Again, I need to just adjust the camera. They're up to air mission 1. We have an intercept marker, which will then come down to cap to show that those 4 are cap, and we don't use the fuel markers here. What we also want is we want some aircraft to go and fly over Guam. So we're going to take these 3, 4, and 5. Put them in Air Mission 2, and we'll take Air Mission 2 off, and we'll put it onto the hex there. As they're Hellcats, they'll have a fuel level of 16, so that's on the 6 with the +10 fuel marker on there. So that's their starting fuel. And that's our launching. Okay. So in the game, for each carrier, there's a thing called a launch limit. That's for the big carriers is 3, for the little carriers it's 1, and that's the number of aircraft that you can launch in a particular phase. We haven't exceeded that, even with these big carriers. They've got I think it's a launch limit of 3. Yeah, it's a flight deck limit of 3. It's a launch limit of 2. So we have actually done the 2 launch limit here. Now beyond that, we can then start to start servicing our aircraft. So everything else is in the hangars at the moment. So we want to start servicing them, and we have a servicing limit here as well. And it's servicing limit of 2 for the big carriers, 1 for the little ones. Give me a second here. Right, so I think we'll try and bring some more fighters on, because we're likely to get some Japanese raids coming in. Oh, hang on. Sorry, yeah, I was seeing what Mike said. You can go 10 on a hex spine, really? Oh, yes, I suppose you can, yeah. That's going to be awkward finding out the search area of that. But yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, point taken on that. You can only have 2 cap missions totaling. So I can't have 3 air points between them. So there's 1 too many on that air mission. Yeah, okay. So one of those comes back then. Probably that one, I suppose. So that's 3 in the cap. Thanks for that. Okay. Now where was I? Yeah, so we want to service, and again we've got these servicing limits. So I want to put some more fighters forward. So we will service 2 fighters here. I think 1 fighter and a further Helldiver, possibly as a search plane here. I probably don't want to move anything on the light carriers here. Again, a further fighter here, further fighter here. Maybe a Helldiver as well. Want to leave those guys. Another fighter here. Another fighter here, I think. And 1 more fighter here. Thinking maybe another one here. That'll do for the moment. So the problem with being in servicing is servicing affects damage if you get hit by Japanese bombs and torpedoes. So you don't want people lingering, aircraft lingering in there. But for the moment, we just want to get some more fighters up available in case we're going to get a raid very soon. It's entirely possible it's going to appear. Okay, so that was our. So that's taking from hangar to servicing. The sequence is we launch, Then we raise servicing to ready, so anything that was in servicing can go up to the flight deck. Then from hangar to servicing, which is what we just did. Then we can also lower flight deck to hangar. So this is from landing into the hangar. And then finally we can land. And we've got nothing to land. So that's all we really need to do here for our air operations segment. So moving on, this will actually move on quite rapidly now, is the US interception segment. Did I place intercept? Yes, I did intercept 2. But I want it can go 1 space during its launch, and I will move its fuel down by 1 as it's heading towards Guam here. The US interception in the air-to-air combat, there isn't any. Japanese air attack, there isn't any. US air attack, there isn't any. Then we clear inoperative flight decks, we haven't got that. Or clear deck crashes, we haven't got any of those. So we advance the action phase marker. So we're on to the second action phase. We start way at the top again. So all this is off camera, sorry. So we start by moving any air raids for the Japanese. There aren't any. So we move down to rolling for that mission dice. So we roll and we get a 9 this time. And we draw our sequence chips. We have the US submarines. We have a NOOP. And then we have Force F. Okay, so US submarines. So the submarines can do a few things. First, they can move. Secondly, they can attempt to contact a force in their same hex. And once they've contacted, they can either shadow or they can try and attack it. If they move, they can then also try to contact as well. We've got these submarines here. This guy is not doing very much, so I think I'm going to just leave him there because there's no forces in front of him. Here, I think we may move a submarine there, I think. And maybe think move that one there. Here we will move into that forces hex, and here we'll move forward, try and get to where these forces are. Okay, so we've moved into the same hex as force C. So when we do that, we can attempt to contact, which is what we'll try and do now. So the submarine contact table here. I'm not on StreamYard, this is directly off my phone. Usually I put the origin markers down when the task force moves. That's when I do it, rather than just stack them underneath. So I'll do that in a while, when the task force moves. The submarine contact table here. So it's a 1 to 4 to fail or 5 to 10 to contact. Modifiers the force not moving. Well, it hasn't moved yet, but that doesn't actually apply yet because it hasn't activated this turn. Or moving into submarine's hex. No, it didn't. It's not versus a cripple ship, and not dark, not oblique or stern. So this is when we're coming up from behind or the side, but we came in from the front. So there are no modifiers here. So it's 5 to 10 for some contact. We got a 9, which is good stuff. We have a contact with the submarine. Okay. And let me just check on the rules here so I'm doing it correctly. Okay, so the first thing we do is we promote the intel level of that force from level 0, which is as it is at the moment, to level 1. So we have this other cup here, which is full of these level 1 chits. So we randomly pick one of these, and let's see what we find. There may be nothing. So we come up with, let me just zoom that in. It's a false contact. So that means that there is nothing there. And what we do is we take the force out and we remove it from the game. So force C was never anything there. And that's all our sub can do. But that's good intelligence from the submarine. Thank you very much. Right, and we've done the subs. There's a no op we can ignore, and now we have force F. Force F is here, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Still too far away to have launched a strike. So we will just move it. It's unknown, so we'll use mission movement, and that was movement 9, which means it goes to there. Okay, and that's our 3 chits done. We're on to the US air movement segment. So we have our air unit here we can move. Now we can move it 1 and it'll cost 1 fuel. We could move it 2, it'll cost 2 fuel, but possibly 3. But I think we want to get over Guam as soon as possible. So I'm going to move it 2, and on a 6 to 10 it will use 3 fuel. At 2 it uses 2 fuel. So we move our fuel marker down. Our cap, it just sits there, doesn't do anything. Doesn't use up any fuel per se, or on the track at the moment. So that's our air movement segment done. We don't have a search segment because we already did it in action phase 1. The air operations segment, we now do our air operations again. We can do launch. Not sure we want to do any launching right now. Yeah, rather we'd like to bring those servicing units up to the flight deck. So I think we'll be... Yeah, we will just move that on to raise servicing to ready. So that's going into the final box. So let's move these 2 up. Again, we haven't launched anything, so we can remove these markers now. Move these 2 up. Move that one up. We'll move the fighter up, but we'll keep the search guy there. We will move these up and that one up. So from hangar to servicing, yeah, we've got quite a lot up there at the moment. I think we might move this SPD up, I think, here, and the Wildcat up to there. I think we're okay with that. Lowering from flight deck to hangar, there's nothing that landed, and then landing something, we aren't landing anything. So onto US interception. There is no interception, no combat to have. No Japanese air attack, no US air attack, and we're on to the advance, the phase action phase marker. So we're on to action phase 3. Rattling along quite good. Move all air raids. For the Japanese side, there aren't any. Roll for our mission movement, and we have a 2. And draw the chits. You can pull them out. Yeah, that's true. I think that's true, but does it actually say that to pull them out one by one? Sounds reasonable though. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't actually say that, but it's a reasonable thing to do. It just says chits are resolved in the order drawn. So it kind of implies that you don't do that, but okay. I mean, yeah, it's a better thing to do. That's probably where I got it. The fact that you pull out all the chits and then you resolve them in order. Anyway, where were we? Drawing the chits, weren't we? So let's pull out the first one. Force A. So force A, which is way up here. Force A is again too far away, so it will just move and it will go. It always goes that direction. So this darker area here is where the Japanese are heading for. This, if they exit from these hexes, then there's a lot of victory points on the Japanese side if they do that. So this guy could be a problem. Force A done. Next is Force D. D is behind it, and so he's going to do exactly the same thing. And finally, we have Guam. Damn. Guam came out before we had our fighters over, which is annoying. So with Guam, Guam is actually the track and information, which is similar to here, is actually up here, Guam air display. So we determine if Guam is going to do an attack. They are 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away. So they're within that 0530 5 hex restriction. So they could launch an air raid at us. So we look at this raid generation table here. So they're within 5, so they could attack. We need a 4 or less for no attack, 5 or more for an attack. We have a modifier of -3 in 0530 because it's so early. The range is 4 hexes, so it's a +2 because Guam is so close. So a -3 +2, that's a -1 on the dice. We would have got a -2 here if we had US fighters in the hex, but we don't have that. So that's it. We have a -1 on the dice, a 5 or more, and they will launch an attack. And they roll a 10, so they definitely attack. We need to determine what force they are going to come at us with. And so we look on the air raid strength, level 3 4 forces, and Guam air value. So what is their current air strength? So there's a counter up in the corner here. It's just on screen, I think, here. The Guam air value. And that air value is 7. It always stays on 7, although there may be modifiers to it. So current air strength we would put as 7. So we just roll that on that table. There's no modifiers relevant for us. They roll a 2, which is 5. So they have an air raid here, which has 5 air points. So that's a 5 air point marker there. If we can just, there we go. Now we don't know how many of those are fighters, how many are bombers. So we just stick it between the fighters and attack boxes here at the moment. Now it appears, it doesn't necessarily appear over Guam. What we do now is we roll for the interception range. And that's on this table here. And we roll, if we had the fighters on Guam, over Guam, then they would have appeared at Guam. As we didn't, we roll on this table to see how far away they are in hexes. I roll a 7, which is quite high. So a 7 is 4 hexes, which actually is Guam itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is Guam. So they actually appear there anyway. Good, okay. So with Guam, we don't move the force now because it's appeared on our radar, so it's moved to that spot. And we don't need to do anything else with the Guam counter. And I think that was our third, wasn't it? 3, 6, 9. Yeah. So that was our third counter. Okay, moving on to our air movement segment. So we move our air mission. So first thing we are definitely going to do is move our Intercept 2 air mission onto Guam itself to attack that that air raid, and that will cost us 1 fuel to do that. And do we need to do anything else? The cap can stay. I think we're fine. No search segment, of course. Air operations. So are we going to launch anybody? Again, I don't think so. No, we won't launch anymore. Raise servicing to ready. We'll move that and that one up. Hangar to servicing. Let's keep everybody where they are, I think. No lowering from flight deck to hangar, and no landing. So we're on to the US interception phase, which is air-to-air combat. So we have our Intercept 2 air mission versus the air raid. The first thing we do is determine how many of these 5 land air points are fighters and how many are bombers. Yeah, I'm not using the Iwo Jima and Yap Luthi. I'm not using that for the moment. At the moment, that rule. Oh, it's in the example of play, is it? Right, okay. Didn't clock that. I just looked at the rules and it didn't really say that you did that. Right, so working out how many escorts are there, we use this table, the Japanese escort fight table. The raid size, it's 5, so it's on this minimum column here. So on a 3 to 10, there will be 1 escort. We roll a 6, so there's 1 escort. So we just replace that. At 5 with 4 bombers and 1 escort. Okay, so this is relevant for the air-to-air combat here. So our air mission 2 has 5 fighters. Now, for every 2 escorts that they have, we have to commit a fighter to fighting those escorts. Is only 1, so we have to commit 1 at least, and that's what we'll do. We'll commit one fighter to fight the escorts. So we look on the no. The air-to-air combat tables. There's 2 combat tables here. There's the American one and the Japanese one. So we're looking on the American one to start off with. We have 1 aircraft. The target is a fighter. It's -1, but also with a +1 if it's a land-based aircraft. So it's a 0 roll, and we're looking for a 7 or more to shoot it down. A 10, that'll do. We shot it down. It does, however, have a shot itself. So that's 1 escort here. And we roll on this table. And there's a -1 on the dice because it's land-based air. That's an 8 going to a 7. Ooh. So that was almost an abort. It's a blank, so it does nothing. So we have shot down one fighter unit there. That finishes the escort combat. So now our 4 other fighters can dive on the bombers here. We get a shot and they don't. So we have 4 fighters here, and we're not targeting fighters anymore. They're bombers, but they are still land-based air. So we get a +1 on the dice. We get a 5 going to a 6. 4 fighters going to a 6 is 1 is shot down. So there's 2 down out of the 5. There's only 3 attack aircraft left now. And that's our air-to-air combat. The last thing we do, though, is any of our intercept go into combat, they actually use up 3 fuel. So the fuel marker goes 1, 2, flips over, and to 9 fuel now. Okay. That's our air-to-air combat. No Japanese air attack, no US air attack. And we're on to the 4th action phase. So back to the beginning, we move Japanese air raids. So our Guam air raid moves, and it will move towards the task force. And then we roll for our mission movement, which is a 0. Draw our final 3 chits. So we have Force E. E is up here. Again, too far away, so he will just move, and he will move a 0 direction, which is this way. So we should put the force counters pointing the direction they moved in, actually. Okay. F actually moved that way, didn't it? Okay, next. That's E done. We have the US move. Okay, so with the US move, possibly move out 1 to here. So now we've moved the task force. These actually originated from that hex, and so there are markers here we can put down, as Mike mentioned, which are known as search origin markers. Each of these markers have a number, and they pair up with the radius markers at the end. So we put these 4 markers here. Okay. That's our US move. And we have the last counter. Last counter is Force B. And Force B is up here. And again, it will just move. And it's direction 10, which is that way. Right, that's all our chits done. We're on to the air movement segment for the US. So again, intercept 2 will move 2. We will roll to see if it uses up 3 fuel. On a 10, it does use 3 fuel up. So 1, 2, 3. And do we want to move the cap? I don't think so. Onto air operations segment, do we want to launch more fighters? I think with they're only having 3 left, I think that a combination of that and the anti-aircraft and the cap should be able to deal with the Guam air raid. So I don't think I'll launch any. And in fact, I think we're quite happy with how everything's set at the moment. So we move on to the US interception. There's air-to-air combat. Intercept 2 again with 5 fighters, now against 3 bombers, 3 attack aircraft. So we just roll on our 5 table here, +1 because they're land-based aircraft. We rolled a 9, goes to a 10, which is actually 3 aircraft. So we actually wipe them all out. And the air raid doesn't exist anymore. And we of course remove our fuel down 1, 2, 3. Okay, no Japanese or US air attack, and we are beyond the advancing the phase marker. We're on phase 4. So let's go with, we don't have to, there's other things we do on the end phase, which is update hit markers. We don't have to worry about, there's no hits to deal with, no fires, and there's no chance of a Japanese submarine attack. So we advance the game turn marker. And so we've moved on from 0530 to 0650. And we run through the whole thing again. I just want to check how we're doing for time here. Okay, let's see if we can get through the next turn. We flip up our search segment markers there, so we can do a search segment this turn. So first thing we do is place new Japanese forces. So it's another set of 6 here we get to place. And again, we'll roll the green die and the white die. So zone 2, number 2 here. Is it more? Are we zoomed in again? Let's move over here anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so that's zone 2, number 2. We have Force H, which is zone 2, number 3, which actually appears on the sub. Not sure if that's actually legal. Can't remember. Certainly you can't appear where there's a US task group. Japanese force arrival. Yeah, I think it's whether the US task group is within 6 hexes. So, yeah, it can appear there. Fortunate for us. Next is that zone 3, number 3. It's way out here. And, oh, here we go. Zone 4, number 1. Oh, wow, which is off here. It's way down the bottom. Okay, next. That's zone 3, number 2. And the final one, that's zone 2, number 3. I think we've already, yeah, we just put that down, haven't we? So roll that again. Zone 1, number 3. There. Okay. Right, and what we do is we put those force markers in the chit cup. So that's 6. We then have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 total chits. And we need to divide by 4, so we only need 1 no-op chit to put into the cup to make it 16. and we will pick out 4 chits per turn. So our chits per phase marker goes up to 4. Right, good. So that's our arrival phase done. So we're on to the first action phase, and we move Japanese air raids. Well, there aren't any, because we knocked the Guam one down. Then we go to the activation segment. We roll 4. The mission movement is a 9. And we draw 4 chits. We start off with Force E. Force E is here, and he's going direction 9. Our minimum, sort of maximum range here has changed because we're now on 0650. So if we look at this, then a max range of 8 applies now. So we'll need to count 8 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's within 8 hexes, so they could potentially launch an air raid. So let's see if they do that. So the air raid generation table. So 650 gives us a -2 modifier. We are 8 hexes away, so that's a 0. And that's it. So it's a -2 on the dice. 5 or more, they would launch an attack. And 8 -2 is 6, so they will launch an attack. All right, so how big is the attack? Right, we'll need to do a couple of things here. So with let's go through the air raid sequence here. Yes. Let me just confirm what I'm doing right. Okay. Because we've said that there is an air raid coming from there, we now need to pick out a level 1 intelligence chit. Okay. To determine, can that actually launch an air raid? So we have a false contact. Okay, so that couldn't launch a raid because actually there is nothing there. Okay, so at this point, it may be that there's no carrier there, but there is actually something there. If we do it, so the false contact just tells us that actually there is no raid. So we essentially just cancel the raid at the moment. That force isn't nothing, or it still may be nothing, but we can't tell at the moment whether it's nothing. Okay, so that was Force E. However, it's we ignore the air raid procedure here, but we do move the force because it's within 8. It's level 0 force still, so it'll do mission movement, and that is direction 9, and direction 9 is heading straight for us. That's Force E done. Next is Force G, and Force G is here, and so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope. So he will move direction 9, which is there. Next, we have Force B. So all the force markers coming out. Force B is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. So he will just move direction 9, which is that way. And finally, we have the last chit for this round, which is Force I. Force I. It's Force I. Force I is way over here. So well out of range. So he will just move direction 9, which is that way. Okay. That's our chits done. We're on to US air movement, move air missions. So I'm thinking that I want Intercept 2 to come in and land. So we will move 2 more and roll to see if they use 3 fuel. They do on a 0. So they're actually down to 0 fuel now. So when you get to 0 fuel, you can go on down to -7 and you use a different fuel marker, which is the one underneath, the critical fuel marker, which then moves across here. If you ever get to 7 with the critical fuel marker, your planes drop out of the sky. But no need to panic yet. Seeing as these forces are starting to get a bit close, I'm wondering whether we should anticipate with taking off another air mission. Yeah, I think so. I think we will, yeah, do another air mission, I think. But anyway, we've done with what's there at the moment. We then have the possibility to a search segment, and I think we will use the search segment here. So first thing is to initiate air searches. So we do have a Helldiver here taking off. I did have one elsewhere, I think. Yeah, and one here taking off. And we can I think we will send this guy this direction. Oh no, he's from here now. That direction. And possibly another one going in that direction. Okay. So then we move our air searches. So these guys move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So unfortunately, we can now resolve any search attempts, but I don't believe there's anything we can see where we are. So they don't search ahead, they search behind. So it's kind of this area here. Unfortunately, we take along the hex sides. So Force L is just out of range here. Yeah, so we can't actually search for anything yet. Adjusting commitment, we don't need to. So that's our air search segment done. So on to air operations. So we want to do a launch here, I think. So I think we'll take 1, 2, 3, another 4 Hellcats into air mission 3, and start it on 16, but move it down to 15 for its fuel usage, and we'll just keep it onto the task force for the moment. Okay. Do we want to raise anything to servicing, anything from servicing to flight deck? We'll move that SB2C up there. And that will be it. Yep. Okay, on to air-to-air combat. There is none. No Japanese air attack, no US air attack. And advance the phase marker. So move Japanese air raids. There aren't any. We roll for the mission movement, which is a 3. And then draw some chits. So first chit out of the pot is our US move. I think we'll move them back. Actually, I'd like intercept 2 to land. And we need some origin chits. Did I put out the radius chits on it? I didn't actually. So I need to put their radius chits out and their origin chits. Forgot to do that in the search segment. So that's a wide search. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, no. Oh, there was only 2, wasn't there? Yes, that's correct. Okay, let's get the intercept marker at the top of the stack. And that's our US move. Second chit is Force D. D is... Where is D? D's up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope. Okay, so they just move, and they're going direction 3, which is that way. It doesn't matter what the number is. Next is the Guam chit. So the Guam chit. So we need to see whether they're going to launch another air raid. Now the air value for Guam is a 7, but we've knocked out 5 of their aircraft. So their effective air value is a 2. And interestingly enough, just check this, but I'm pretty sure. If we were to roll for an air raid and get it, the current air strength chart only goes as far as a 3. So I believe that Guam can't raid. And in fact, it does say that here. Use Guam's net air value, which is now 2. If less than 3, no raid. And that's it. So Guam actually isn't going to do anything. And to be honest, for the rest of the game, isn't going to do anything. But that's our third chit. That's Force K. K is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope. So it's just going to move and move in direction 3, which is that way. Okay, that's our 4 chits for action phase 2. Move air missions here. So intercept 2, even though he's in the right place, will use the fuel. So he will actually get a critical fuel 1. Air mission 3 will, I think, stay where he is. That will use 1 fuel anyway. And air mission 1 is still on cap. So then, no search segment, air operations, so any launch. Let's remove those. I don't think we need to do any more launching yet. Raise servicing to ready, nothing. Hangar to servicing, so a few more fighters, I think. That'll do for the moment. And then there was no landing, so nothing to lower to hangar. And landing we do have, so we have Intercept 2 is going to land. Intercept 2 had 5 fighters. Now these can land wherever they like. However, I like to keep them in their original task groups. So if you see this F6F fighter, if you turn it over, it has a designation. So I kind of like to skip to, just keeps me honest kind of thing, and end up with capacity issues. You only have 8 planes on a big carrier, 3 planes on a little carrier, and I might stuff myself up here. So this is a 58.3, so we want him to land here. So probably here. This is another 58.3 here. Another 58.3. Land there. A 58.4. And another 58.4. So, yeah. Let's check the flight tech limit for the light carrier. There's only 1. Okay, so they can't land there. And that can't land there. So we'll land somewhere else then. Here and here, I suppose. Yeah, trying to keep to the right task forces, but that's not always possible. Okay, so those have landed. However, we need to roll for them because they're fuel -1. There's not likely that something nasty will happen to them, but it's possible. We roll on what's known as the safe return table here. So if we get a 12, we get a roll again. A 12 or 13 or a 14, that's a D10, so it's not likely. The amount of full overage for the mission. So we've got it's a +1 for our -1 servicing. So +1, and we need to spend a fuel point landing. So we will actually spend an extra point doing the landing. So we're on so we're on a +2 on the dice. So we could, on a 0, which is a 10, get a 12. So we roll for each of the units. So that's one here, an 8 is fine. This one here is fine. Oh, it's the wrong one. That one and that one, sorry. And then down here, it's just off the chart, isn't it? There we go. So this one here, a 1 is great. Next one is fine, and finally on the Essex, a 3 is fine. So they all land okay, no problem. That's great. So that's our land done. Any air-to-air combat? There isn't any. Oh, we'll just get rid of that Intercept 2 marker and reset fuel. There's no Japanese air attack, no US air attack, so advance the phase marker onto phase 3. Moving in the Japanese air raids, there are not any. So roll for the mission movement is a 4, and draw our 4 chits. First one is Force L. Force L is here. Now he is quite close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, so he is within 7. So let's see if they do attempt a launch. So on our air generation table, it's 0650, which is a -2. It's 7 hexes, which is a 0. So it's a -2 on the dice. 5 or more will a raid may have been launched. Rolled a 10, so -2 is an 8. So there is a possibility of a launch. But as this is a level 0 unit here, we pull out a level 1 intelligence marker to see if it really could be something that launches aircraft. And we have another false contact. So again, it didn't actually launch, so we ignore that. However, it will still move, and it's moving in direction 4, which is going to be moving closer. That's L done. The next is Force A, it's up here. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, not quite, so he will just move on. We have the US subs. So I think this, so Cavalis sub will move to there. Sub-Bang will move to there. Fin back that direction, because we've got a force down here. And Stingray, oh, we've got another one, albacore here, haven't we? To there. And Stingray will attempt, it won't move, but it will attempt a contact with Force H. Submarine contact. Force not moving wound, submarine attacks, no. Not crippled. No chase approach, and not dust. So it's just a straight roll. 5 or a 10 for a contact. An 8. We have a contact. Okay, so we pick out one of our level 1 intelligence markers here. What have we got? We have something. A large force. So we tag that onto Force H. A large force. Now let's just check what we do with that, with the submarine. So we can either shadow or we can attack. I think we will shadow for the moment. So we take the sub and flip it over into its shadow side. So we're now shadowing that force, which is a large force. Okay, we don't know if it's got carriers in or anything like that. It's just a large amount of ships. Okay. That's all the submarines, I think, we need to deal with. Yeah, that's a sub move. So how are we doing? That was 4. Yeah, we've got one more to do. And this is Force C. Force C, where are you? A, D, B, E, H. Oh, we don't have a Force C. Because that actually was a... yeah, that should have been taken out, sorry. That's the false contact we had last turn. So what I need to do actually is put another no op counter in. Never mind. We got Force J then instead. Force J is way down here, miles away, and on a mission movement of 4 moves that way. Okay. Right, that's our full chits. Moving air missions. I think Internet 3 will just come and sit over Task Force 58 and use another fuel. And then any air operations, kind of happy with what I've got at the moment. I suspect I'll get an attack fairly shortly. I might move that F6 up. Move those 2 up. Those 2 up. That one up. No, yeah. So move from servicing up to ready, but we won't put anything else in servicing for the moment. I haven't got a lot of fighters left to ready, actually. Okay, and we're landing nothing. No air-to-air combat, no Japanese air attack, no US air attack. Next phase, so this is action phase 4. No Japanese air raids to maneuver. So we go to our mission movement. Dice roll of a 6. And draw our chits. So first out is a no-op. Second out is another no-op. Third out is Force F. And Force F is here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so they could potentially launch a raid. So I believe we're on the -2 again for the time. -2, and the distance is 8, so it's a 0. So -2 on the dice, 5 or more for an attack, a possible raid. A 3 goes to a 1, there's no raid from there. They will still move, and they'll move direction 6. Direction 6 is straight ahead, of course it is. Right between my 2 submarines. It moves straight between the middle. Okay, Force F done. And the final chit here is Force H, which was the unit there with the shadowing submarine. Now, it may do something about that submarine. We have to resolve what's known as an anti-submarine warfare attempt, ASW attempt. So I'll find the chart for that. So this is the ASW table, which is here. So if the sub is shadowing, it's a -2. And that's it. So there's a -2 on the dice. Let's roll the dice. Let's roll a 7 going to a 5. 5 says pinned for 1 turn. So this means that it's not shadowing anymore. And also it is pinned, so it's basically had to dive, and so it's lost Force H, and also it's stuck in that hex for another turn, so it ain't going anywhere. Never mind. However, Force H can of course move, and he'll move in direction 6, which is straight ahead. At least we know it's something of a force there. That's good enough for the submarine. Thank you very much. Okay, that's all our full chits. Moving air missions. I don't think we want to move anywhere. Air mission 3 is just clicking down on its fuel. And any air operations? I don't think so. I think we'll keep everything as it is. And no air-to-air combat, no Japanese air attack, no US air attack. So, and we're into the end phase because that was the 4th action phase. So there's nothing particularly we need to do on the end phase. There's no hits and no fire, etc. So we advance the game turn marker. and we are on to 0810. So I think I'll end the stream there. Let me just check the chat, how everybody's doing. Yeah, forces can re-enter when you need place new forces. That's true. Yeah, the other forces, yeah, just uses 3. You're quite right. Oh yes, needs to lower. Oh yes, forgot to do the lowering the planes. So yes, those will lower. Yeah, good catch. Missed those off the end. Yep. So they're all pushed into the hangar. Thanks for that. Right. Yes. So I think we're up to date. Good. So we'll end it there. And thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Mike, for giving me a couple of pointers there. It's always a bit thing when you're actually trying to play the game and talk and stop your camera falling off and things like that. So thanks, Mike, for that. And so yeah, hopefully you'll join me next time for continuing on with this. As we've done a couple of turns there in the initial work there. So let's see where we go from here. So I hope you can join for the next time. Thanks for your company, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.